On this week's show, the men's basketball team with an early exit in the Sun Belt tournament, the baseball team sweeps Appalachian State, and we preview the annual Schenkel Invitational. All that and more as we welcome you inside the Eagles' Nest. And welcome inside the Eagles' Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined as always by traveler Mike Anthony. Short travel, unfortunately. Weary traveler Mike Anthony, sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Mike, a brief stay for you and the Eagles in New Orleans. Unfortunately, one and done. We knew they came in having lost their last two, and you just never know with a young group how they're going to be able to rebound, and hopeful for a couple of wins at least to get some experience in the Sun Belt tournament. Unfortunately, they started off cold, came back and played a little better second half, but it dug too big of a hole, and in the year in New Orleans, losing to South Alabama for the third time in the year, the 8th seed in the tournament.
Well, I guess you could say it was a perfect storm working against the Eagles. Not only did they have to face South Alabama, which for whatever reason seemed to be their worst matchup in Sun Belt play, 2 games earlier in the season where they got way behind, tried to come back, didn't quite work out. Maybe not as extreme of a comeback attempt in the tournament, but same result, just not quite enough shooting. You look at the road that they would have had to go down. There were only 3 teams that swept the Eagles in the regular season. They would have had to beat all 3 of them just to get to a championship game. And then just New Orleans in and of itself, that lakefront arena, for whatever reason, it does not fit the eye of the shooters for the Eagles. Last year in 2 games, they did win one, but they failed to score 50 points in either of those games. They needed a second half surge to get over that mark this time around. So maybe get there a day earlier next year, see if you can break into the arena overnight, figure out those rims there. But overall, you've got to say maybe a disappointing end of the season for the Eagles, but a very good total overview of the season. This is a team that was picked to finish next to last, the youngest team in the nation. They're well ahead of schedule. Now it's the process of keeping everybody together, get them on the same page, make sure that they start the 2016-2017 season where they were at the peak of this year. If they can do that, I would assume that they'll be predicted to finish much higher and maybe stay a little bit deeper. Let me experience more New Orleans food next year.
All right, well, let's get out and see how things went and hear from Mark Byington. The opening round of the Sun Belt tournament, Georgia Southern and South Alabama. The Jags take the early lead. Nick Stover for 3. More from South Alabama as Stover finds Nick Davis inside for the easy 2. The Eagles trying to scratch back. Tukey Brown able to cut the lead to 6. The Jags respond. Ben Williams, the friendly bounce on the 3, back to a 9-point lead. This is the kind of half it was for the Eagles. The block on one end and then off the miss, the follow-up slam on the other. GSU down by 15 at the half. We move to the second half. The Eagles able to chip away at the lead. Ike Smith, 2 of his 15 points. Later it's Tukey Brown, 2 more of his 15 on 5 of 18 shooting though. Later on the break, Tukey with 2 more to cut the lead to 4. But the Jags respond once again. Shaq Calhoun, 2 of his 15 in the game. And finally, another block on one end, leading to another fast break and dunk on the other as the Eagles season ends 67-61, the final.
You know, the end's never easy, and you know, this is a fun group to coach, and I watched them grow, I watched them get better, and you know, the way we played in the first half just wasn't indicative of the team that we've grown to be. You know, maybe the team we might have been early on in the season, but we were much better than that, and things, you know, got out of control with the turnovers. I think we lead the league in fewest turnovers and really taking care of the ball, and we just weren't ourselves. And it took us a while to settle into the game. And once we did in the second half, you know, I recognized that team that was in the second half that was out there playing. And I think we had it down to 3 with about 5 minutes to go, and then we had 4 straight turnovers. And when the game was 3 with 5 minutes to go, I really believed we were going to be able to pull it out, and I thought we were going to be able to find a way to win. But it's a moment, it's a game, that is disappointing, the way we played. But if looking at the overall season, really proud of where we became and how much better the guys got, and what a good group we have. It's not the way we wanted to end, but I think these young guys and the guys are coming back. I think this is going to be a great motivator for future success.
Well, Mike, Little Rock ends up winning, ends up as the 12th seed. They'll be taking on Purdue in the NCAA tournament this week. But one of the big questions that comes out of a tournament like that down there, and you mentioned in New Orleans and the venue for it, is a lot of schools are having home venues for a lot of the tournaments. You were down there. Obviously, the crowd was very small for South Alabama and Georgia Southern. I'm sure it picked up a little bit for Lafayette and Monroe. But overall, do you think a big venue at a place like that for like the Sun Belt tournament is a good thing, or do you think they might move it to home sites?
Well, I think that the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans definitely is a little bit bigger than what the Sun Belt needs. When UL Lafayette's there, I'm sure that they can pack them in. It's only an hour and a half drive for them. But other than South Alabama, 2-hour drive, even Monroe I think is a little bit more than that. So kind of tough to get thousands of people from all these other schools in. You could do what you suggest, having a home site, especially in earlier rounds, but then you run into the trouble of what happens if Georgia Southern's hosting, but they're hosting Arkansas State. You might get all the money from one crowd. You'll get no experience, no tournament experience from a competing fan base, and all it takes is a couple years of having too long a trip before those fans start to turn against that idea.
Maybe in Atlanta or somewhere that's a little more centrally located, I don't know. Seems like a lot of times they cater to where the headquarters are, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a fair route for everyone else to come.
And they will have it in New Orleans next season. I've been told that all 12 teams, there will be 12 next year, with Coastal Carolina getting in. I've been told that all 12 teams will make the tournament next year. It will once again be in New Orleans. However, just a couple of weeks ago, bids went out for new sites, a possible vote on that. I know Atlanta has put in a submission, a couple places in Arkansas where the Sun Belt tournament's been held before. They've put in some bids, New Orleans again, so we'll see how that voting goes. We'll see what the athletic directors, now that there's some new ones that didn't vote the last time around, we'll see what they have to say on the matter.
All right, well, let's move outdoors, where the Georgia Southern baseball team has been on fire lately, winning 9 of their last 10. They go on the road to open up Sun Belt play up in App in Boone. Taking on App, sweep them. The bats seem to come to life a little bit. Now App, not a very good team, at least on the record right now. Your thoughts on where Georgia Southern is as they get set to host Troy coming up this weekend?
Well, Georgia Southern's winning exactly how Coach Rodney Hennon said that they would win, doing it with small ball, doing it with executing in tight clutch situations and getting it done with pitching. The home runs, they're just not going to be there in bunches this season. Getting Hunter Thomas back, that was clutch. He hits a grand slam, his second at bat of the season. But the long balls, the big innings, not so much there. The pitching, however, has been there. It's been great so far, both starting and bullpen, all of them hitting on all cylinders, making App's batters look, like they've been covered in snow for the last 4 months.
Which, of course, they have. Well, you got Troy coming up this weekend. Troy started off pretty strong. Your thoughts on the Eagles entertaining Troy? How big is this series? Because if you could win 2 of 3 or maybe even sweep, that gets you on a very good track starting off the season.
Yeah, Troy, a solid team, 7 wins in a row to begin the season. Maybe not against the best competition. They've come down to earth a little bit, but they contended very closely with UL Lafayette, picked to win the Sun Belt preseason. They took 1 out of 2 there. 3 teams overall in the Sun Belt sweeping their opening conference series. Georgia Southern's one of them. So great to be 3-0, but with 2 other teams, South Alabama amongst them, picked to do really well in conference this year. You've got to keep pace. Troy picked to be right there with Georgia Southern as a middle-of-the-road team that might be able to make some noise. You win a series here, another favorable one against Arkansas State in a couple of weeks. Georgia Southern, you won't be in the driver's seat, a long ways to go, but you will be right where you want to be, where you force the field to come up to you.
All right, well, let's go and stay outdoors and go to an event that we both hold pretty high esteem, and that's the Schenkel Invitational coming up this weekend at Forest Heights Country Club. Once again, a great field. You've got Auburn ranked among the tops in the nation, 3 I think right now. You got Wake Forest, historic program with some pretty impressive alums, including Bill Haas, who played in the Schenkel and played this weekend for the championship in the playoffs at the Valspar. And you got North Carolina, and most of the teams around the top 50 are hovering right around there, including Georgia Southern, right now about 60th.
Yeah, and you mentioned the great rankings of the teams, always a big draw for some of the better teams, but also the individuals. Not a year goes by where a handful of guys playing in the Schenkel don't end up on at least a smaller tour. A lot of them have tour cards. You pick up a program when you go out to Forest Heights Country Club, they'll have a list, and it's a long one of guys who have not just played on the PGA Tour, they've won on the PGA Tour. They've made their mark at Forest Heights. The teams that come here, they love coming back. Year in, year out, you hear it's one of the best experiences as far as the fans, the atmosphere, the overall weekend. Always around St. Patty's, always in a partying mood at the Schenkel.
All right, well, they start things off on Friday officially, but they have some events going on for the youngsters this week as well. We had a chance to talk with Carter Collins, the head golf coach, about the upcoming event.
Schenkel Week's always a lot of fun. You know, it's always difficult to temper their expectations, but also understand that's a very important week for the program, and that's a tough mixture sometimes. But the team's been preparing for this all year, especially this semester in the last few weeks, and I expect us to be ready. We came back from an event a week and a half ago at Palmetto Golf Club in Aiken, South Carolina. We played very solid up there, and that course has a lot of similarities to Forest Heights Country Club, and we've been competing well at Forest Heights this semester in the last few weeks, and I don't expect the Schenkel to be any different. The team chemistry this year has been very nice. Give a lot of credit to the younger guys on fitting in immediately, and they've done a great job kind of realizing their role in the program and working hard to help each and every day make this team better. But I think the important part for them, and even the guys that have been here for a while, is to understand that this week is just another week. It's just competing at your home golf course, at a course we've been playing at all year. And the sooner they can wrap their heads around that, I think the sooner they'll kind of ease the pressure off of them and help them play their best.
Exciting going into it. Just fortunate enough to be able to have a spot in the tournament. It would be kind of weird because I've always grown up going and watching it, and I haven't been able to watch it probably for the past 6 or 8 years, and to think that the next time I'll see it, I'll actually be playing in it is it's kind of exciting. The chemistry's been really good. Younger guys, including myself, stepping in and kind of realizing our role and learning from the older guys who've been there. I think chemistry's been really good.
I think the start of the fall was very solid overall for the whole team. We got off to obviously a good start with a win and 2 second-place finishes, but you know, the start of the spring season was a bit tough, finishing 10th at the Gator and not so good decent last week. But I think we're going in the right direction the whole time. We've had some good practices and the guys are playing pretty good, so I'm looking forward to it.
Things get underway 4:30 to 6:30. They have the youth clinic going on at Forest Heights. It's free and open to the public. Get out there and have some fun. And then the event begins on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll be out there. We'll have highlights at statesboroherald.com. Mike will have it in the paper as well. But for now, that'll wrap things up. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.